Hey members, Mr. Johnny here, back with virtually BGCMC. I got a new draw along for you all. In this video, I'm going to show you how to draw Sonic the Hedgehog. And as usual, all you're going to need is a piece of paper, pencil, and eraser. So go ahead and grab that stuff and let's rock and roll. Okay, here we go, Sonic the Hedgehog. This drawing is actually a lot more simple than I thought it would be. And as usual, like we do, we're going to start with the big shapes first and then add details on top of that. The first big shape that we're going to need is a circle for the head. But what you don't want to do is put your circle right in the middle of the page. That's because he has these big fins coming back from his head, and we want to leave space for that so they don't go off the page. So what I'm going to do first here, I'm going to find about the middle here, but I'm going to move over just a little bit. And this, I think, is going to be a good spot for the circle. And we want to go pretty big here. Actually, Sonic, this character, he has interesting proportions. So his head is going to be really big. Actually, it's the biggest part of his body. And then, he has a small body, pretty big hands, and pretty big feet. So we want to keep that in mind as we go through this draw along. Okay, now we got the head, circle for the head, start off really big. The body is going to be more of an oval shape, so we're going to find about the middle here on the circle and the bottom of the middle. And we're going to draw an oval shape here, oval shape going down. And as I'm drawing this, take notice of just exactly how small the body is here compared to the head, right? The head may be about 2.5 times bigger than the body. So again, I'm drawing lightly to start off with because as we go through our drawing, we're gonna make a lot of changes and adjustments and things like that. And if you start lightly, it's just gonna make it so much easier to erase and make any kind of corrections that we need to later on. All right. So head, body. Next basic shapes we're gonna need are the arms and legs. So we'll start off with the legs first. We'll find about the middle here. Again, the middle of the bottom. So it's kind of like these shapes are stacking up, right? And I'm gonna start here and make the legs. The legs are actually really thin and pretty short actually too. So I'm gonna start with this kind of like an upside down V shape here. Okay. And then from there, I'm gonna go on each side and actually make the legs really thin. See? Here and here. Okay. Just get them as close to the same thickness as possible if you can. And then here on the bottom, we're just going to close it off. I like using a line with a little bit of a curve to it. I don't like making it straight a flat line here. I'll put a little curve just because when you use too many straight lines, I feel like the drawing could come out looking a little bit stiff. So I'll put a little bit of a curve here. Okay, we got the legs in place. Now moving up here, this corner where the head is meeting the body. This is where we're gonna start the arm. And we're gonna go down here. His arm is bent. Down, curve around. And bring it back here into the body. This arm, we're not gonna be able to see the hand. That's because it's his body's turned, as you can tell. And his head is actually on the other side of his body that we're not seeing. So here on the side, we just have to worry about the arm. Here is a little bit more complicated. So again, I'm gonna find that corner where the head is meeting the body. And then I'm gonna draw a curve here just to show the shoulder where it's plugging into the body. See, where it's making that connection. So we got our shoulder here. And then we're going for more or less the same shape that we drew on this side. We're gonna go out here. I like starting with the outer part of the arm. It kind of makes it easier for me to picture how the arm is going to be placed. So we'll go out here. And then as we reach back here to the body on this part, we could stop the arm and draw where the wrist is going to be. Very similar to this line on the legs. This is where the wrist is. And then once you get your wrist in place, we could fill in the other side of the arm, just going down and around. So right now you probably see a lot of these guidelines here that are making the drawing look kind of muddy, kind of crowded. We're going to be getting rid of these guidelines later on, and it's going to look a lot more clear. Once we get rid of the guidelines that we don't need, the true form of this character is going to start taking place, and it'll look a lot more clean, a lot more like Sonic, like how it should be. Okay, so from here we'll save the hands and feet to when we start adding the details, but from here we're going to start adding the some stuff starting from the top of the head, working our way down. Okay, first thing we're going to do is put these fins in here. And to start off with the fins, we're going to come here to the top of the head. What you want to keep in mind is that these fins are going to be a lot bigger than you might think. So I'm going to start my first one coming out to about here. And again, draw these lightly to start off with, because when you get them in there, you might want to adjust the size or even the placement of them. And again, since we're drawing lightly, it'll be easier to erase if you decide you want to make any changes. So I got my first one here coming out to about this far. My next one, I want, instead of starting my line straight from the end of this one and coming out here, I'm going to go in a little bit. When you go in just a little bit and start the next one, it shows what we call overlap. So we're going to overlap this spike here, I guess you could call, and we're going to bring it down. The end of this actually goes down pretty far, pretty close to the bottom of his head, if you could tell. Okay, and then we're going to bring this one back in. And then we're going to overlap again. So instead of starting the next one right at the end of this one here, I'm going to go in a little bit to about here, and then put in the last spike going down this way. And then bring this one back up here. Remember that corner where the head meets the body? That's what we're aiming for again, to bring this fin back, okay? And I think that's looking pretty good, especially for my first shot. Here in this one that I drew, they're kind of hanging down a little lower. This one, they're kind of pushing out a little more sideways. I kind of like the look of this. I'm gonna go with it and then see how it turns out in the end. I'm not gonna darken it up too much because I might want to make adjustments, but for now it's looking good. So you could tell this guideline for the head that we drew in the start, look at how big and wide these fins or spikes go out, right? You want to make sure that you leave a lot of space. Now the next thing we're going to do is put a triangle here for the ear. That's going to sit right on the circle. That's why we didn't erase this part of the circle yet, because we still need it for a guideline. Okay, and then just jump over to this side, draw another triangle for the ear. All right. From here, we're gonna get into the face details, features, and we're gonna draw this part: his muzzle, his nose, and his cheeks. So again, we're still using this circle as a guideline, and from here we're going to curve in this way. We're going to start with this curve here. This is going to be where his nose sits. So we got this curve, and then we're going to curve the other way here And you want to reach near the other side of the circle. However, this side touches right on the edge of the circle here. Here, we're not going to go all the way over. We're going to stop about here and then curve it back in and bring it down this way towards the chin. Still ending here on the circle that we drew in the start. And this shape is going to give you his cheeks and his muzzle. You could even follow this here all the way around, because now this circle, this part of the circle here is going to be part of the final drawing. So I'm going to darken it up here, add the nose here, just put a big oval shape. Right? And then we don't need to erase this. We don't need to worry about that because we're going to shade in the nose here. And once we shade it in, that's going to cover up all those lines that we drew underneath it. Okay, so we got that. Here, my line, I feel like my line work is looking a little sloppy here. Let me try to clean it up a little bit. And then once the muzzle and cheek and nose are in place, you could put a little smile or no smile. You could make your mouth how you like, but I like to put this little smirk on Sonic. Kind of captures his attitude, I think. Now for the eyes, we're going to start here on the side of the circle, curve up this way first, kind of like how we started with the nose. We're going to get this curve first, just like that, upside down U shape, kind of. Then bring it under this way. Okay, so we got a big S curve here going. And then actually we're going to add another curve to this line, and it's going to go all the way around this way and meet back up here around where his cheek is. So we have this big curved line here going around. Here where the end of this line meets the circle, we're going to just add a curve going up and in. This is kind of like his eyebrow here. And then we could darken up this line now as well. Okay. So for the eyes, I like to try to do this one first. You know, just like it's pretty much the same shape as the nose, a big oval shape. And then we just shade it in. So once I get this one placed how I like it, then we go over here. And this pupil, we're not going to see the whole thing because his head is turned. Well, his eyes are turned as well. And this part of his, I guess you could call these his eyelids. His eyelids are covering up part of his pupils here since they are turned. Okay. All right. Now from here, I'm gonna close up this circle shape, bring it to the eyebrow, the edge of the eyebrow, and then darken up his ear as well. This ear is gonna be a little bit different. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna darken up this part here, and then I'm gonna draw a little triangle shape on the inside. And then that moment that I was talking about earlier, once we don't need certain guidelines that we drew, we could just get rid of them. And once you get rid of those, then you start to see the true form and shape of this character take place. See, now this is all just one big shape instead of having that circle cutting off part of it. Okay. From here, we'll get the circle on his belly. Okay, I'll darken up this line here as well, but I'm going to stop here, right here when I get to the leg. Okay, and I'll darken this up right? So for the hands, this part might get a little bit tricky. We'll start with the wrist first on the gloves. And from here, where this line is for his wrist, I'm gonna go back a little bit here onto his arm, and then first come around this way. Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll darken these lines up first, and then for the parts we don't need, just so you can see it more clearly, I'm gonna get rid of these lines we don't need anymore. That way you could get a better idea of how these lines are going in. I'll get rid of this part too. We don't need these either. Okay. So if you weren't able to see this one really clearly here, I'll do the same thing. I'm gonna find the spot, jump back a little bit up to here on the arm, and then draw a line coming around this way. And once you have the wrist here for his gloves, you just close it up with a line like that. Okay, so for the hand, we're gonna get a circle in here. It almost looks kind of like a boxing glove when he has his hand in this position. So we get a circle here. And then I think I drew this one with his, you could see the crease in his knuckles here, but I think if you just do a line coming from here over this way, I think that'll look good to show his hand in a fist. I think this is enough here. So if you just want to do this little crease going up here, that'll be good. And then if you want, you could add these lines here for his knuckles. Okay, so moving on to the legs. His lines came out pretty thick here. Might be a little bit hard to see clearly on camera. Let me try to clean it up a little bit. Well, there we go. Okay, looks a little better. Now for the feet, we're gonna do the socks first, and it's gonna be pretty much the same thing we did here on the wrist. I'm gonna come out this way and this way. Okay, close it up here. And then I'm gonna do the other sock as well before I do the whole foot on the side. Here and here. There's actually a reason I want to draw this foot first. Okay, so we go down this way for the heel, and then out this way for the bottom of the foot. And remember, you can make these feet really big. But the reason I want to do this foot first is because this foot is the one that's in front of the other foot. So just to make it easier, it's usually easier, not all the time, but when you're drawing, to draw the things in front first, because then once they're placed, you could just hide anything else behind it that you need to. So this, the back of this foot here is, we're just seeing a little bit of it. At least on my drawing, you might have a little bit more space in yours. But here on mine, you could just barely see that little part there. And then we'll go out the bottom from back here. And then close it up here. There you go. Okay, so we have all our pieces in place. But like we usually do, we go back, make sure we didn't leave anything out, right? Make sure we clean up any kind of lines that we need to, erase anything that we don't need anymore, and just give our drawings that final touch that they need. I think especially here, I need to clean up some stuff. Okay. I think it's good. So there you go, everybody. Sonic the Hedgehog. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.